Welcome, everyone. My name is Melissa Dargan, and welcome to the 2022 Internapalooza event. I'm already, thinking about last year, but excited for this year. And let me just start by saying a special welcome to all the prospective interns. Whether you're planning on applying this summer, this fall, or you're just even thinking about exploring what it could be like to be an intern in Congress, this is where you want to be in order to learn more. Internships are an experience that is helpful to your career, not just your resume, and can give you great real world understanding of what it is to work in the government. So I would like to introduce now our panelists for today. I'm first going to introduce Katrina Oshima. Katrina is a professional staff member with the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. I also want to go ahead and introduce Haley Wint. Haley is the Chief Clerk and Communications Aide for the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. She formerly interned for Senators Tim Kaine, Tammy Duckworth, and her committee, and she can speak on the day-to-day life of Hill interns. And then hopefully we will be able to be joined by Diego Zambrano, who is the Republican professional staff member with the House Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Now, let's just dive in. Let's dig into the questions. So this is for both Haley and Katrina. What is your elevator pitch for why people should be an intern in Congress?
That is a great question, and I just wanted to welcome everyone who's joining us. This is a very exciting event, and we've had so much fun planning and organizing it, so it's great to see you all here. I would say for folks here who are on the fence about interning for or working for Congress, know that this is an opportunity that very, very few people have to work with very driven and passionate people in an environment that fosters change and impacts real lives. You also get to see, behind the scenes look at how the government actually works. And I think that's a very valuable bit of knowledge to have.
Yeah, and just adding to Haley's comment, first of all, thank you, Melissa, for the question. And also thank you to the whole Internapalooza team for having us today. Really excited to dive into more of these questions after this one. But, kind of our office, what we always say to people who are thinking about interning but aren't sure is that even if you never want to go into politics and have a long-term career in government, having an internship in the House or on the Hill in general is really great to have an understanding of how America works, how our laws are created. Whatever career field you decide to go into, whether that be medicine, business, tech, anything, the laws of the nation are really influencing how your day-to-day life, both as a professional and in your personal life, they're really influencing all of that. And so just having that understanding of how laws are crafted, having that empowerment to know, hey, I can call my representative and get all these different sources of help. Having that firsthand experience is really great just to bring forward with you in the rest of your life. Of course, if you want a career in government, there's nothing else that can compare to internship in Capitol Hill. So I think that for itself speaks for itself.
Those are great points. And in terms of helping people, but also understanding the basics of government, because that can translate to any job, whether it's in public service or the private sector, are great points that you guys made. And on that note, so let's say someone is a prospective intern, they've applied, they got the internship. What is the day-to-day like, right? Like, because we watch television and we sometimes see like, oh, this is how Congress operates. Can you give us insight on what a day-to-day responsibility would be like for the interns?
So as Melissa mentioned, I'm a former intern myself. I was a press intern for Senators Tim Kaine and Tammy Duckworth, and also was a press intern for the committee that I currently work for, the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. So I promise you that you're doing much more than getting coffee for your colleagues. And really what you do is determined by what type of intern you are. So there are a few different distinctions that I'll quickly review. So you have legislative and press interns, and legislative interns support the policy staff and the staff assistant, who is an entry-level administrative position within your office. And then you have press interns who support the communications team and support the press assistant, which is an entry-level communications role within the press team. Then you have interns in DC who are working in members' DC offices, as well as interns in district offices, which are the offices in the districts or states that the members represent. And then you have interns in personal offices, also known as member offices, and committees. And so if you're an intern for a personal office, you're interning for a senator or a representative. And if you're interning for a committee, that's like interning for the House Judiciary Committee or the Senate Appropriations Committee. And then lastly, you have interns who are either working in the House of Representatives or in the Senate. And so all of these different distinctions really determine what type of work you're doing on a day-to-day basis. But generally speaking, legislative interns are the interns who are answering the phones. So if you've ever called your member of Congress, the person who picks up is not your member. It is typically an intern, and so they, interact with constituents, answer phones, log messages, and pass messages along to staff. They also respond to emails and snail mail from constituents. They help draft memos, and they conduct legislative research. For press interns, they support the communications team. So they draft press releases, social media posts, they support the press team and conduct research. And then a big part of a press internship is compiling and sending out clips. Clips is essentially a daily email that staff within your office receive that is a list of articles that your member or your committee is mentioned in. And that helps your office get a sense of what the news is saying about your member and helps them track that information. So that's kind of an overview of how your day-to-day could look in a legislative or press internship, but it's also really dependent on who you're interning for and where you're interning.
Now that we know, what interns do, Katrina, I'd like to ask you, from your experience, is there a particular kind of person who would do well to be a congressional intern?
So I think one of the common stereotypes I heard of congressional interns, but staffers in general, is that everyone is an extrovert, wants to network, all those things. I will say there's definitely that type of person on the Hill, but I wouldn't let stereotypes like that determine whether you want to work in Capitol Hill. Personally, I'm a huge introvert. I know a lot of other huge introverts on Capitol Hill, and all of them are thriving and doing great things for their office. So as a personality perspective, I don't think there's a certain type of person that makes a better congressional intern over another. I will say though, I think people who do really well genuinely are very motivated and are kind of self-starters in the sense, a congressional office is a very busy place and there's always something to do. And so I think offices can really value that person that just kind of jumps in and says, hey, I see there's a gap here. Let me help you out. And, bringing ideas to the table, bringing your perspectives. But, one of the things our office really advocates for about why diversity is important, whether that's in thought, background, ability, etc., is that you're all bringing diverse perspectives. And so I think really any type of person could do well on the Capitol Hill. As far as when thinking of your background professionally, in that sense, I remember as a college student thinking, I don't have work experience, and you're supposed to get an internship to get work experience. So how am I supposed to do all of this? Some things I tell people, I help people, work on their resumes every day. And one of the things I tell students a lot of time is, yeah, you can talk about professional experience. Customer service skills are huge when it comes to internships, just like Katie was saying, doing a lot of constituent interactions. So those food service jobs, retail service jobs, those are all customer service skills. But other things that people don't include on their resumes that they really should are club work. That isn't a professional setting, but you're using professional skills. You have a budget for a club, you're putting together events, coordinating people. So really, internships are meant for people with little experience, because that's the whole point, is to get more experience. So it's really just about reforming the experience you have to let people know that you have the experience. And
yes, and just to echo what Katrina said, so I'm an intern coordinator, so I hire interns for our office, and when I see applications that don't have former Hill experience or campaign experience, but the person worked in retail or in a customer service position, I value that experience very highly, and I take that applicant as seriously as someone who's interned on the Hill before, because as Katrina mentioned, those are really important skills to have. And in addition to maybe extracurriculars that you're involved in, you can always mention volunteering that you've done. If you're involved in any religious organizations or you're really involved on campus in other activities, you can always find a way to tie that into the internship that you're applying for.
Great points. And I think it is important because not everybody has a connection to politics, but if they are interested in public service, there are ways that you guys have both touched upon, both with, doing a sales job or having customer service experience that can really lend a helpful hand in actually being a successful intern. All right. Let's say you're an intern and, people are thinking about the future and they are thinking about how can I leverage my internship into getting a job? What are your thoughts in being able to transition that internship and what is your advice, your best piece of advice into doing that?
Yeah, so my office, when we give resume advice, our biggest advice always is look at the job you're applying for. What are the key responsibilities the office is talking about in the job posting? And then basically going through each one of those key responsibilities and saying, have I done that before? When did I do it? Making sure it shows up on your resume. And that's one of the reasons why, Hill offices, when they're thinking about, their staff assistants, they really value those internship experiences because staff assistants often have, more advanced but similar duties to what you might have done at some point in your internship. So like, the staff assistant could be doing a lot of constituent interactions, answering the phones, replying to correspondence and emails. As an intern, like Haley was saying, you might be on the phone with constituents. That is a transferable skill. It is something that offices want to know that you can handle that environment. And so, that's how you're leveraging your internship, is making sure that those skills, house offices are looking for show up on your resume. And there's just so many skills you gain as an intern that you can just show them off one after one. Our office, we recently did a study on staff last year. And one of the things we found is for those entry-level positions, so staff assistant type positions, around 40% of them at some point were former intern for the house. Because the study was only for house. It did not include this in it, so I can't speak on that. So it's a really valuable set of skills that you learn as an intern. Additionally, as an intern, you're gaining a network on the Hill. You're making friends, learning what offices are like and how you can really, show yourself off in the best light to any given office.
I think on the topic of your network, just stay in touch with people. So, we've had interns who interned in the fall and then in the spring focused on wrapping up their year up and then, contacted me when they graduated, just asking if I knew of any open positions or anyone that that I thought they should speak with. So just stay in touch with your intern coordinator, with colleagues that you worked with your staff and press assistants, and keep a portfolio of your work as well. So during interviews and applications, you not only can say, oh, I did this in this office, but you can actually show the work you did, whether that's a link to a press release that you drafted or a memo that you helped draft for one of the policy staffers.
Yeah, I would say that's huge. To keep a portfolio of all your work. Those are writing samples you can use. Those are just data you can share about your work. Yes, that's a great tip.
Definitely. And I know a lot of the times people think, oh, keep a portfolio of your work. That's for like graphic designers and artists. No, if you're on the Hill, be sure to keep a basic little track record that you could show, because I know in some interviews, they may ask for a writing sample. And if you have that on hand, you already have something that you drafted and during your internship that fits that congressional office. The next question I do want to ask is just knowing what you know now about internships and working on Capitol Hill, what do you wish you knew before you started in helping, prospective interns think about their internship and what to expect? What do you wish you knew beforehand?
So for me, I would say I wish I knew that it's okay to make mistakes. Thinking back to my first ever day on the Hill, in my first internship, I was absolutely terrified. I remember emerging from the metro station. I was so nervous. I could hear my heart pounding. I was sweaty. I was just a disaster because I was just nervous that I would make a ton of mistakes my first day, and the staff assistant would regret hiring me, and I would somehow single-handedly like ruin the structure of our office and our democracy as we know it. As you can see, I have that type of like type A personality, but I have, as an intern coordinator, run into many interns who are just nervous and scared to ask questions because they don't want to appear stupid or incompetent, when really, as an intern, like, you're there to learn. Yes, you're there to support the office, but you're there to learn. And how else can you learn if you don't make mistakes? So if anything, I expect a ton of questions from my interns. I expect mistakes. And as long as you learn from mistakes and move past that, then I think it's a very valuable experience.
I would suggest dropping all your preconceptions of Congress, Capitol Hill, politics out the door before walking in, because there's so many things that will surprise you about the dynamics of the workplace. And things that you think are stressful and scary don't need to be. For me, like I was saying, I'm an introvert, so I always found the idea of, the mecca of networking is Capitol Hill, and I found that very intimidating. But it doesn't need to be. There's a lot of great people and you'll find community up here. And like Haley was saying, ask questions, make those mistakes, because some of the best connections you can make in any work environment are the connections you make as you're making a mistake and finding someone to help you fix the mistake. So really, don't be shy, ask the questions, get help, because that's some of the best connections you can make in a work environment.
What resources exist for new interns? And I'll toss this first to Katrina, as you are with the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. In addition to your office, what are some of the resources that are out there that interns can go ahead and use?
So, our office, of course, is always here to support interns who are looking for, maybe their next internship or a full-time position after their internship. We do resume reviews, mock interviews. We are a bipartisan office, so never let things like a party think that you can't reach out to any given office on the Hill. So that is a great resource. Additionally, there's the staff associations, I think, are huge for one, creating a network on the Hill, but also finding not just a network, but community on the Hill. And those staff associations, also have their own resume banks a lot of the time, to help, again, find your next position on the Hill. But the staff associations, share resources for professional development, social outings, etc. And they're great resources as well. Additionally, there's a lot of Hill adjacent organizations that you might see in the other sessions today, like College to Congress. They have, intern kind of intro guide handbooks that you might find on their websites and etc. And those are really great to kind of just get a few tips and tricks before you start your internship.
I want to also plug that one of the things that I had started over pandemic is a YouTube channel that works with personal finance and understanding government that can help you navigate how to get paid as an intern, and help you understand more about, questions that you may have about working in government. Haley, I had a question for you. And because of your experience in one, as an intern coordinator, but also as a former intern, what are some of the most, and like spill the tea here, what is like one of the most like unexpected responsibilities that interns can expect to be asked to do?
Yeah, so for anyone who regularly watches C-SPAN here, which might not be a ton of you, but for anyone who has, seen a floor speech of a member and you see they have a poster board next to them that depicts an image or has a piece of data on it, that's something that I didn't realize interns sometimes will do. They'll go to the office that creates those poster boards, pick them up, and then bring them back to the staff member who needs it for the floor speech later that day. I would say just when you are sent out on errands to go pick up items, make sure you have the contact information for the staff member you're assisting. Because I picked up a poster board for Senator Kane's office when I was interning for him, and I got really, really lost, and I didn't have the phone number of the staff member who I was assisting. So just make sure you stay on top of that, and that's definitely kind of a responsibility I wasn't aware existed.
And we did have a question from one of the attendees. So thank you, Allison. The question here is GPA a large factor that intern coordinators take into consideration when reviewing an applicant? What are the key factors you look for in a resume?
So as Melissa mentioned, every office is different. So every intern coordinator will have a different set of criteria that they use to evaluate applications. I will say for myself, as an intern coordinator, I rarely look at GPA. If anything, I just glance over it, and I focus more so on professional experience, on the cover letter, and why the person is interested in interning on the Hill. But I rarely look at GPA, and I try and find someone who is excited to intern for the office, have strong writing skills, detail oriented, and are genuinely interested in this opportunity.
The advice I normally give interns is, the education section doesn't need to be extensive on your resume. You should really spend most of your focus on your professional experience, clubs, volunteer work, the things that are showing off your professional skill sets.
Great. Thanks so much for sharing that. And again, thank you to our panelists for sharing their insights. Thanks everyone for joining.